Hey, welcome to another episode of Her Faith at Work. I am so glad that you are here. And if you are new to this space, welcome. Thanks for listening. If someone shared this with you, thank them for me. Sharing is caring, right? That's what they say. And this podcast is no different. We really, truly appreciate you sharing what you find valuable with others that you think will find it valuable as well. So today is the first of our special episodes where we will be highlighting once a month a different nonprofit organization that is doing such great work to make a difference in their own communities and in the world. And I'm really excited to be highlighting someone who I consider a friend. We have known each other and done ministry together for many, many years. And what she and her organization are doing is just remarkable. I cannot wait for you to hear from my friend Lindy. She is one of the founders of a ministry called Belle and Sparrows here in the North Dallas area. And so without further ado, let's get after it. Truth time. When's the last time you raised your hands for a swift kick in the pants? Well, I'm the no-nonsense type friend who's going to tell you when you have food in your teeth. So let's get right to it. This is your infusion of sacred and secular, calling you higher into who God created you to be, exploring how intimately faith applies to every part of your life and how you can live that faith every single day in the marketplace. I felt the tension of separation of church and state. I've been one of the few women at a table of men for decades, and I've stood my ground. Are you ready to do the same? These tools, resources, and interviews are meant to do just that. I'm Jan Touchberry, and it's time to share her faith at work. Hey friends, welcome to Her Faith at Work. I'm really excited about this episode because it literally is a coming to life, so to speak, of a vision that the Lord gave me almost a year ago. It was November 2023. And if you have not listened to the whole origin story of how this podcast and this vision came to be, I'm going to link the episode down in the show notes. It literally says Her Faith at Work origin story. I think it was 2 episodes ago, but I'll give you a little recap and tell you why we're doing this episode because it's so, so, so important to me and it's super exciting. So back in November 2023, I had felt the Lord calling me to start a podcast for a long time and he'd confirmed it. But in November, he added to that. He upped the ante, so to speak, by telling me that it would also be a nonprofit that supported nonprofits. And I went, what? Say that again. And that had never entered my mind, but he showed me such a beautiful picture of how the name Her Faith at Work was that kind of double meaning. It's her faith, how it's lived out in her work, in her business, but also how her faith is at work in the world. And that's what this is, y'all. We are, as business women, we have been given such a powerful tool to be able to generate income and funnel it for kingdom purposes. And I firmly believe that the Lord is going to use this community to do exactly that. I've heard over and over again businesswomen in various contexts say, I would love to give to nonprofits, but I don't have time to vet them. And there's so many that are, you never know who you're really giving to and what they're going to use the money for. And is there any kind of buried thing that they do with the money that's fishy and whatever? And so I just don't. Well, I'm here to tell you that I'm going to do the vetting for you. And today is the first one. I'm so excited. I get to introduce you to my dear friend, Lindy Griggs. She has an organization called Belle and Sparrows, and I am so thrilled to introduce her to you, to introduce her organization to you, and everything that God is doing in them and through them. And so, Lindy, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jan. Thank you so much. I am honored to be on your podcast and the first nonprofit that you're introducing to the community. And I just, on a side note, Jan, want to say how proud I am of you and to be your friend and to watch you live out every single day for, I think I've known you 19 years. what God is asking you to do, and you say a cheerful yes, and you go out and do new things and conquer your goals. And it's just been so exciting to watch and to be a tiny little part of, and a cheerleader on the sideline for you.
Yeah, you're a big cheerleader, and I appreciate that about you. I just love you so much. This is what I know about Lindy. Lindy has always had the hugest heart for missions and for the marginalized and for serving the underserved. Lindy, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was that heart that really led you to start Belle and Sparrows. So tell us how that happened.
Yes, I was on church staff with Jan. I was the student ministries admin at the time when I met Jan. And I had the sweet privilege to be the female chaperone on mission trips when my kids were in middle school and high school. And so that really is where a love for missions was birthed. I went with a role that I could help minister to girls, but God also gave me an opportunity to have my own ministry time on these mission trips, and really where my passion for evangelism kind of was birthed, just seeing kids and seeing women and men on the mission field and being able to share just the love of Christ with them. And that is where Belle and Sparrows was birthed. I transitioned from student ministries to women's ministry and took a team of 24 women from 6 different churches to a partnering mission organization that the church had partnered with. And this was the first time that our church had sent an all women's team out. And we went to Guatemala and we served some of the poorest of the poor in the Guatemala city dump. And then we got to serve up in a remote village with about 40 women that were Mayan families in the community. And after that trip, I really felt the Lord nudge, maybe do this outside the church. Start something outside the church walls. Now, I come back from all these different trips that I've been on, and I want to adopt a baby and a country. And my husband's always like, yeah, that sounds great. And he knows in about 2 or 3 weeks, that mission high is going to kind of taper down. Yeah. After the women's trip, it didn't. And I remember calling my husband and I said, I think God wants me to start an organization for women serving women. And he said, well, if that's what the Lord's telling you to do, then you need to be obedient, and I'm not going to stand in your way. So
smart man.
That's really where it was birthed. And it was about 1.5 years of praying with and, doubting the Lord and like, I don't know how to do this. And all of those normal fears and conversations that we have with ourselves and with the Lord, and talked with a group of friends, asked them. And one of my girlfriends was like, let's do it. And we jumped in together, Tiffany Savage.
So, Lindy, that's such a beautiful picture of how Belle and Sparrows came to be. I would love, because I know the power of what you guys experienced in Guatemala, but when you say you served women at the city dump, can you paint a picture of that for people who may have just glossed over when you said that? Because y'all, I will never forget when Lindy came back from this women's missions trip and she was sharing the stories of ministering at the city dump, which to us in first world America sounds so like, what? I don't even have words to really describe it. So Lindy, just tell us a little bit about that experience.
We partnered with an organization, Welcome to My Father's House in Guatemala. And this was one of the ministries that they were helping, and they would bring food resources to a ministry there. And the ministry that we partnered with, it was a daycare so that the women who worked in the city dump could go to work. And the city dump is acres of the city's trash. And the trucks come in and then they dump all the trash, and then there's sorters, and the sorters pick out glass and they pick out plastic, and then they pick out metal, and then they move those mountains of debris and trash to the respected areas. And so it's almost like a caste system. If you're a child of a dump worker, likely you will remain in that position your whole life.
Mm.
So while the women went to work in the dump, there was a Christian preschool that the kids got to attend. And we had the opportunity to go into the city dump, which is really kind of a dangerous place. And we got to visit a house. And the house was in the plastic side of the dump where they had already sorted. And so you just saw mountains of soda bottles and mountains of plastic. And this house that we visited, she had a son that went to the daycare, and they had a house constructed of plastic tarps and sheets of plastic kind of tacked together. And it was more like a lean-to than it was a house that we would know of, a house, kind of like almost a fort, so to speak, made of trash. And it was dark, and we were 24 women, and we crammed into this house. It was hot, and you can imagine that being in the city dump, the smells are not real pleasant. And we crammed into this house and prayed for these two sisters, one who asked for just general prayer for her family, and we prayed, and the other asked for prayers for her. I can't remember if it was her father or her grandfather. And when we prayed for her, it was very dark and very heavy, and she began to scream, and it was not a pain scream. It was something different. It was something unworldly. And our host missionary said, "Let's start to worship." And we started worship and singing. Then the girl that was screaming went and kind of fell out and was on the ground. And we still worshiped. And it was a scene that I will never forget. Never forget. One, the darkness that resides in the world. We later found out that she was, I believe it was granddaughter. She was the granddaughter of the cult leader, and when it was called the death cult, and he was kind of over the city dump. Anyway, these women are forced to do unimaginable things that we don't know how to reconcile here in our comfortable, houses and workplaces. They're selling their own bodies for income, and some of them selling their children into sex work for income. And how to go to a place like that when that's so unimaginable to us, but never having walked in any kind of shoes close to that, going in love with a heart of compassion and mercy for some of these ladies. It really was a life-changing trip. And then we got to go up into the village up in Tabacol with the Mayan families, where poverty is a way of life and they live on a couple of dollars a day. And to see what has happened in that community over the last 20 years has really been beautiful, to see how they have come together as a community with a school. And now there's a secondary school, and there's a water filtration system and hydroponics, and they're growing their own food and vegetables and coffee plants. And that's really where God gave me the vision, the nudge to start Belle and Sparrows outside of the church, women serving women on mission. Belle in French means beautiful, and sparrows are referenced in the Bible as, the small bird that God feeds and doesn't forget. So our tagline is beautiful, not forgotten. And it is for the marginalized and the at-risk and under-resourced women that we have a heart for, just instilling worthiness and dignity, and letting them know that we haven't forgotten them.
That's so powerful, Lindy. I would love to fast forward
Mhm.
because how long has Belle and Sparrows been in existence?
We launched in 2017,
Okay.
and primarily those first 2.5 years were very mission driven. We're in Guatemala. We went to Haiti 2 years. We went to Antigua and Barbuda. We went to Portland 2 times. We went to Waco about 4 times. And it was very missional. And we were also serving with organizations in FW, partnering with domestic violence, partnering with homelessness, partnering with addiction recovery. And then in 2020, COVID changed everything for everyone. And we thought, how can a mission organization sustain being missional if no one is allowed to travel? If no one is, I mean, we couldn't even go down to Dallas and serve. Everybody had
Right.
shut doors and to visitors. And
Hmm.
so we thought, what could we do to change with what was currently happening? How could we adapt to the changes? So we had heard from some of the women that were in residential programs that we had partnered with. Upon graduating, they weren't making enough money to make ends meet. So we thought, what could we do that could in some way provide some supplemental income?
Can you explain residential programs for people who don't understand what that is?
Yeah, of course. We partnered with organizations that provided housing and food and coursework for women who were coming out of incarceration. So in Dallas, there's an organization, Exodus, and it is formerly incarcerated moms, and it's reunifying the mom with the child post incarceration. So they live with their children in an apartment on site for a year, and it teaches family values, and it goes through budgeting. It teaches them how to parent in a different way, maybe clean and sober for the first time.
Wow, that's incredible.
We partnered with different organizations. Genesis Homeless Shelter is an emergency homeless shelter in Dallas, and we partnered with them. And Breaking Free was in Anna, Texas. We partnered with Breaking Free, and those were women coming out of addiction.
Mhm.
And so they were living in a sober living facility for a year, really getting their footing back. And what we were finding out was once the women graduated from these fabulous programs, it's difficult to get established. And
Sure.
so our first candle maker, Maria, I don't think I've said anything about the candles yet, but
You have
we,
not, but we're definitely going to talk about it.
we launched a candle line. And so we wanted to provide employment to women who were coming out of these programs and teach them the candle making skill, but also just pour into these ladies,
Mhm.
mentor them, and giving them opportunities to come and work with us and then go out in the community and sell our candles and all of that. And our first candle maker, Maria, was on paper not the typical hire. She was a 6-time incarcerated woman who nobody wanted to really take a chance on. So she was working a full-time job after she graduated from her program, but only making $10 an hour living in Dallas. And so we wanted to be able to help Maria and women like Maria who maybe we are their primary income or supplemental income. And Maria's story is it's just so beautiful. And she was living in Dallas, walking to the bus stop with her daughter. She would work on Saturdays for us, and she'd walk to the bus stop, take the bus to Dart in downtown Dallas to Plano. We would pick her up in Plano, bring her to McKinney, make candles on a Saturday afternoon, and then take her back to Dart. And then she'd have that trek back home. And she was able to save enough between her jobs to buy a car, which was huge and
Wow.
very liberating, and then was able to get out of the neighborhood where housing is affordable
Mm.
for, wage jobs. And so just to see her flourish over the years, she was with us for 3 years, and the Lord took her to South Dakota. But it's that piece that we get to be present in part of their journey.
Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful. And Maria is the first of many women that you guys have been able to help in that way, right?
Yes, we have had several women come through our doors. Not everyone stays for 3 years. It may be just a short interim. Currently, we have Valerie working with us, and she's been with us almost 2 years. And she's a single mom of seven who found
Wow.
herself moving to Texas with a housing situation that fell through
Mm,
and ended up in an emergency shelter. And we partnered with a couple different organizations, and the emergency shelter reached out and said, I think we might have somebody that would be good for your program. And so Valerie's been with us for 2 years, and she's now in a house with her kids in Anna. Another woman who's with us is Latasha, and Latasha had a similar situation, but she was with a different organization that was helping homelessness.
mm,
And she was in that program and needed to have, as part of their protocol, needed to have employment. And Latasha came and worked with us solely for a couple of months, and then she was able to find a full-time job. So she comes when she's available. And so we kind of work around the openings in her schedule. She's the single mom who was on the streets, um,
mm.
and she has two kiddos. And we've had another woman in the program who called thinking we were a domestic violence shelter. And we told her that we didn't provide shelter, but I would be willing to give her employment. And so when she moved here from Michigan, fleeing from her abuser, I met them at Chick-fil-A and fell in love with her and hired her on the spot. And so she worked with us. She was a single mom of 4 kids. When she moved here, it was 108 degrees.
Oh my
Remember,
goodness.
those awful temperatures we had here. And so I worked with another organization in town, and we were able to give her some emergency money to get her in a hotel and off the streets while it was 110 until she could get into her house. And so
Mm.
these are some of the women that have come through our doors, that we are part of their journey and get to be a little bit of their story and part of their story. And as we grow, we will have the opportunity to hire more women, provide more hours. We don't have a storefront. We do have a beautiful office, but storefront is something that God has kind of planted a seed in my mind about. So that's something that in his timing will come to pass when it is the right time.
I think that's amazing. So I want to talk specifically about your candles because I'm a huge fan of them. I may have what my husband would term as too many. You need more candles. Why do you need more of Lindy's candles? Well, number one, they smell so good. This is y'all, I'm just going to get super practical right now, right? So this is ancillary to all of the good work that Lindy does with her candles. I just want to talk about the candles and why you need them in your life because number one, they smell amazing. They're beautiful. They're so tastefully done. They're clean burning, which if you are anything like me, I love candles, but I hate the junk that comes from most candles that you just pick up at the store. These are not that. These are clean burning candles. And I know that when I am purchasing a candle or many candles from Lindy, it's it's more than just purchasing a candle for my home. It is doing something to make a difference in someone's life. And I believe that innately as human beings, we need to know that we're making a difference in what we're doing. And when something as small as purchasing candles can do that, I don't know about you, but I feel really good about giving my money to an organization like Belle and Sparrows for candles that serve such the grander purpose. So I want to talk just a minute. So tell us about the candle making process quickly, just because I think it's fascinating.
During COVID, we went to a local candle making store and had a private lesson on how to make candles. And between that and YouTube and trial and error, we came up with our candle. It's 100% soy, so it is clean burning. We have cotton wicks, which are clean burning. And we blend most of our own scents. And it's just, sniffing, a lot of sniffing and trying a candle and burning it and seeing if that's really what we want and then adjusting. We started with one size candle and we started with one size candle in, I think it was 5 cents.
Mhm.
And we thought, well, how can we, you know, capitalize on this? And so then we started seasonal scents. So every 3 months, we have new candles coming out, new
Mhm.
scents coming out. And some we will repeat for one more year, but we're always trying something new. We have added a different, smaller size. So we have a 12 ounce, we have an 8 ounce, and then we have a new little travel candle, which is in a tin and it's a 4 ounce tin. And so if you have a favorite candle that you love and burn all the time, you can now have it in a 4 ounce tin and take it with you on your business trips or
Yay.
vacation. And that's so fun. And we just launched a men's line. So we're out at a lot of pop-ups and more men with their spouse or girlfriend or partner come up and say, well, what do you have for men?
Mm.
And we'd show them our candle, which is just very minimalist, but we wanted to have something specifically for men. So we have 3 new candles that are packaged different for the guys.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited about those personally because I gravitate to the more manly scent versus the floral. But
Mhm.
if am I remembering correctly that you have a perfume background?
I do. I do.
Oh,
I have a great nose.
in your former life,
In
you
my
were a perfume sniffer.
I did work in fragrance at a high-end department store for a
Yeah.
number of
It has
just
served you well.
it has. And that's a bucket list dream of mine is to go make perfume in France one day. But
Interesting. Belle and Sparrow's perfume, maybe?
what a great idea.
Thanks.
But the candles are made, we make them in-house. They're small batch, they're hand poured, nothing is done by machines. It's all done by hand. They're all going to have, as uniform as we try to make them, they're all going to be just slightly different because they are all done by hand and packaged by hand. And it has been so fun to involve our ladies in the scent process. And when we're choosing scents, we lay it all out and we have our dip cards and we dip in the scent. And I have loved watching them be involved, and they've loved being involved in
Yeah.
making it from, innovating the scent all the way to packaging and selling it. And so it has been really fun. We want to expand to maybe some different products that could be in the home accessory category.
Mhm.
And we are always exploring just different things that we could add to what we're currently doing.
I love that. Love it. I can see, well, that's a different conversation. I have lots of ideas for you, Wendy. Just the way my brain works. So, for people that are listening that want to get involved and support Bell and Sparrows, there's a few ways you can absolutely positively go on their website. All of this is going to be linked in the show notes, but you can go on their website and you can purchase candles for yourself and for gifts for other people. Christmas is coming up. It's a great time. And who doesn't love a good candle as a Christmas gift, right? But there's something very unique that I have started doing. If you are one of my clients, if it hasn't already rolled out to you, it will be soon. That you guys are able to do like private label candles. So, my company, the Brand Collaborative, is going to have Brand Collaborative branded candles that are going to be used as client gifts. And I'm so excited to be able to send these out because I know that it's not just me going on Amazon and buying a gift for a client or going to a flower shop and buying gifts for clients. I know that there's these companies that you can buy a gift card and a client gets to pick what they want, which is fine, y'all. But to have something that's personalized to my company with a label that I also know goes above and beyond that because it's supporting these women and this ministry that is doing such great work, great kingdom work. It makes me feel so good about how I spend my budget dollars, my advertising dollars, because I know it's doing something more than just appreciating a customer or a client. So tell us about these private label candles and where did that idea come from and how do we get them?
Yes, I just am always thinking of ways that I can provide more hours for the ladies.
Mm,
And having a retail background and knowing that private label is a huge business, I thought about branding candles with company logos. And it provides hours, like you were saying, for our women, but it also is a beautiful client gift. I think people are giving client gifts, and we have clients who give our candle as gifts and keep it with our logo, and they say, no, I want you to have all of it. But I know that there are companies that are building a brand as well, and they would love to support and give back to the community. And doing a private label candle has been one of those ways. So not only has Jan done private label candles, but we worked with realtors, and we've worked with a mortgage company, and we've worked with a law firm, and we've worked with a woman who makes baskets, those baskets that you can buy for housewarming gifts and all of that. She purchased the candles with her logo on those. So they're great in addition to a basket or as a solo gift. We did a roofing company. We've done a national storage company. So I just pitch it wherever I go,
mm.
and usually end up picking up one or two clients. We do the labels in house. So you send just a PDF of or a JPEG of your logo, and we just plug it into our software, and the label comes up. I send you a proof, and we play around with how you want it to look. The only thing that we ask is that we can keep our little business card inside with our name and our QR code, how you can order our candles, perhaps, or that the recipient can look and see that the company is giving back to women who are rebuilding their lives.
I love that. I love it so much. Action steps, ladies. Here's what I've heard. You can buy candles for yourself, you can buy candles for gifts. You can buy candles for your company and you can keep the Belle and Sparrow labeling or you can put your own labeling on it. You can just donate to Belle and Sparrows and they use that money for the various things that they need to do for running their ministry and supporting these women. And you guys still do mission trips, correct?
We do, and we will have one coming up in January. We will go back to Guatemala, and that trip has shifted a little where we are primarily working with the women in the village, and for the last 7 years have been bringing skills to those women so that they can earn income. And to
Mm,
see
so
what
good.
they have produced is just amazing.
That's so good. So that mission trip is open. So if
Yeah,
somebody who's listening to this wants to get involved in your ministry, like hands on, they could join the mission trip. Yes.
absolutely. I would love that.
That's so great. And then the big ask, ladies, is if any of you feel God tugging on your heart to get Lindy a storefront, because I'm going to believe that into existence right now, because I think he has that for you, Lindy, and your beautiful organization. If you are in commercial real estate, or if you are, I don't know, whatever. If you're feeling like the Lord's asking you to be part of this organization, whether it's storefront or whether you have some other way to help her promote what they're doing, I'm going to ask that you get in touch. All of that stuff is going to be in the show notes. The way that you get in touch with Lindy, all of the links to order and to get involved. We're going to put all of that in the show notes. And so, Lindy, if you could just say one more thing, one more thing that God has laid on your heart to the audience, what would that be?
I think we are in days where we just can't be complacent anymore. We have to get involved. We have to use our spheres of influence. We have to use our resources to build into kingdom purposes. And as women in business, I think there's no more beautiful way than to pour into another woman, because we innately are all the same, and that we want to be seen and valued and loved, and our circumstances should not prevent that from happening. And the past that we have is not a reflection of how we're seen by the Lord. We are seen by the Lord as the righteousness of Christ. And so being involved, getting involved in local or global women's ministries is really my heart of passion, and where the Lord has really put me and planted me. So that's what I would say.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Lindy, for your time. Thank you for sharing your amazing organization with us. And ladies, let's rise up, because I feel like this is what the Lord is. I mean, he's stirring women. I hear it over and over and over again, that he is stirring women. He is challenging us to rise up, to use our gifts, to use our abilities, to use our talents, to use our businesses to further his kingdom. I know that if you're listening to this and you've made it to the end of this podcast, you were one of those women. So I'm just going to challenge you to rise up, to really ask the Lord what he's asking you to do, and to be obedient. Let's be obedient. So you will hear little blurbs about Belle and Sparrows for the rest of the month of October. Belle and Sparrows will go on our list of vetted organizations that you can give to. So let's do amazing things for the kingdom. Let's rise up, let's join together, and let's support this ministry. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Her Faith at Work. If the Lord put someone on your heart that you think needs to hear this message today, will you just smash that share button? And if you haven't already followed the show, I would love for you to do that. Super extra points if you hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That helps the algorithm pick us up and drop us right in the AirPods of people that need to hear what the Lord is saying to them today. I hope you'll come back for the next episode of Her Faith at Work. The podcast comes out every Wednesday. And if you look down in the show notes, I've even got a couple of free downloads for you that I think you will really enjoy. With that, have a great week. See you next time.